When you are trying to understand whether someone is truly loyal or not, the very first thing you must learn is that words are cheap, promises are light, and declarations mean very little when they are not supported by action. Human beings are creatures of habit, and no matter how eloquent or persuasive someone may be with their words, what really exposes the truth of their loyalty is the consistency of their patterns. It is easy to say, "I'll always be there," or "You're the only one I want." But the true measure of those statements lies in repeated choices day after day, in both small matters and large ones. If her actions are not lining up with what she says, you are looking at a sign, not just a one-time red flag, but a recurring signal that you must not ignore. You see, loyalty is not something that shows up once in a while. It's not about what happens on anniversaries, during good moods, or in the honeymoon phase of a relationship. Loyalty is a constant thread that runs through every ordinary day, in the silent decisions a person makes when no one is watching, and in the discipline to follow through on commitments. When a woman says she's loyal, but her choices don't reflect that, whether it's in her conversations, her habits, or her priorities, she is revealing that her loyalty exists only in theory, not in practice. Patterns will always speak louder than any romantic words whispered in the heat of the moment. Think about it. You've met people who make grand promises, who talk about forever, who shower you with affection when it's convenient. But when challenges come, when temptations appear, or when effort is required, their actions betray the truth. They may apologize, they may promise to do better, but then you notice it again, the same avoidance of responsibility, the same drifting attention, the same subtle disregard. What you are observing is not random, it is a pattern. And once a pattern emerges, it becomes the greatest predictor of future behavior. If she cannot be consistent with small commitments, calling when she says she will, showing up when it matters, keeping boundaries when you're not around, how can you expect her to hold steady in moments of real temptation or adversity? Patterns also reveal priorities. People make time for what they truly value. If her energy is divided, if she is constantly pulled toward other sources of validation, if she invests her attention more into external recognition than into the relationship, she is telling you something very clear: you are not her priority, and loyalty cannot survive where it is not placed first. This is not about demanding perfection. No human being is perfect. But what matters is the direction of her habits. Is she building a consistent track record of aligning her words with her actions? Or is she creating a record of broken promises, excuses, and contradictions? Another layer to this is awareness. Some individuals believe that as long as they say the right thing, they can maintain an illusion of loyalty, even while living in contradiction. But sooner or later, the mask falls, because no one can sustain two conflicting realities forever. If she says she values honesty, but is caught hiding small details, if she speaks of commitment, but her lifestyle leans on secrecy, these aren't accidents. They are reflections of deeper values. Her patterns are the truth she lives, while her promises are the image she wants you to believe. And in the end, it is always wiser to trust the truth of her patterns than the sweetness of her words. There's also the energy you feel when you pay attention. When someone is truly loyal, you don't just hear it, you sense it. Their consistency builds an atmosphere of trust around them. You can rely on them because their patterns reassure you without them needing to constantly defend or explain themselves. In contrast, when a woman is not genuinely loyal, you will often feel a sense of unease, a tension between what she says and what you observe. That gap between her words and her actions is where doubt grows. If you are constantly second-guessing, wondering if you're being told the truth, or noticing that her explanations don't add up, that is not paranoia. It's your intuition picking up on the cracks between her patterns and her promises. It is also important to understand that loyalty doesn't reveal itself only in big, dramatic moments. In fact, it is most visible in the small, repetitive choices. Does she protect the relationship in her everyday interactions? Does she demonstrate respect for the bond when temptations are small and easily hidden? If the answer is no, then those little cracks will eventually turn into bigger fractures. Disloyalty rarely starts with a massive betrayal. It begins with small, subtle patterns of neglect, patterns that reveal where her true focus and commitment lie. This is why you cannot ignore the evidence of actions. If she apologizes but doesn't change the behavior, you are witnessing a cycle, not growth. If she makes excuses every time but the same pattern returns, that's not an accident. It's her nature showing itself. And if you find yourself constantly forgiving, constantly overlooking the same inconsistencies, then you must step back and recognize that you're not dealing with a loyal heart, but with a person whose patterns are showing you who she truly is. Attention is one of the most powerful currencies in human relationships, and how a woman spends that currency often reveals the truth of her loyalty. When someone values loyalty, they invest their attention where it belongs, protecting the connection they have. But when she constantly craves validation from other men, whether it's through social media likes, messages, compliments, or flirtation, what she's showing is that her sense of worth is scattered. She is feeding off external approval instead of grounding herself in the relationship she's in. A loyal heart does not chase constant reassurance from the outside world because it finds fulfillment in the bond it has chosen. When she is addicted to attention, it becomes an exchange, a transaction where she treats admiration like a drug, and no single person will ever be enough to satisfy that hunger. This desire for attention is subtle at first. It may look harmless, posting photos designed to get reactions, entertaining messages she could easily ignore, or entertaining flirtatious comments with laughter and playful replies. To her, it may seem small, just a part of fun or harmless interaction. But in truth, it is the beginning of divided loyalty. Because loyalty is not just about physical presence, it is about emotional alignment. If her emotional energy is constantly invested in securing attention from others, her loyalty is already compromised. That need for external validation means she is not rooted in the relationship, but in the endless chase of outside approval. You must understand that attention is addictive. The human brain releases dopamine when validation is received, and for some women, that rush becomes something they cannot live without. Every like, every heart, every compliment reinforces the cycle. And the more she becomes addicted to it, the less satisfied she feels with what she already has. That hunger doesn't fade once she is in a committed relationship. Instead, it grows stronger, because the more stable the relationship becomes, the less thrilling it feels compared to the unpredictable highs of external attention. This is why some women will appear deeply affectionate with their partner, yet still seek small doses of attention from others. It's not about needing another man, it's about feeding the ego through constant affirmation. Patterns of attention seeking are also deeply revealing about a woman's self-worth. When she cannot stand still without someone noticing her, when she measures her value by how many people compliment her, when she thrives only in the glow of being admired by many, it shows that she has not developed inner security. And when loyalty is tested, a woman who is not secure within herself will naturally be drawn to the temptation of outside admiration, because she has trained herself to seek worth externally. A loyal woman does not need to test her attractiveness in the eyes of other men, because she is already rooted in the connection she has chosen. Another important truth is this: attention divides energy. Every ounce of energy she spends on receiving validation from strangers is energy she is not giving to the relationship. If she is busy posting provocative content for likes, if she is answering late night messages with flirty emojis, if she is maintaining secret conversations just to feel desired, she is investing in a world outside the bond. Even if she never physically cheats, the spirit of her loyalty is already fractured, because her emotional energy is not exclusively committed. And emotional disloyalty always precedes physical disloyalty. It is a pattern that begins in the heart long before it plays out in action. Notice also how attention seeking creates instability. A woman addicted to validation can never truly be satisfied, because there will always be someone more flattering, someone new, someone who pays her more attention than you do. If she measures her happiness in constant external affirmation, the relationship will never feel enough for her. She will become restless, always comparing, always craving, always chasing the next spark. That restlessness prevents loyalty from taking root. Instead of watering what she has, she is constantly searching for fresh validation to fill the void within. And here is where many people get deceived. She may assure you that these little things mean nothing, that she is only playing around, or just being friendly. But you must watch the pattern, not the excuse. Friendly or not, loyalty is measured in where she places her attention. If she is casual about entertaining outside validation, if she refuses to set boundaries around how much of herself she gives away, then she is prioritizing her ego above the commitment she claims to honor. And what starts as harmless fun becomes a habit that weakens the foundation of the relationship. The deeper problem is that when attention becomes her currency, you can never truly give her enough. No matter how much love, reassurance, or commitment you provide, it will not satisfy the endless craving. That hunger is not about you, it's about her. She is feeding an emptiness that no single partner can ever fill. And this is why attention-seeking behavior is such a strong sign of disloyalty, because it reveals that her energy is spread too thin, her focus is divided, and her sense of fulfillment is outsourced to the approval of others. The more she gives herself away for attention, the less she has left to give in loyalty. Restlessness is one of the most telling energies you will ever notice in a person, because it exposes what they are truly searching for beneath the surface. A woman who is deeply loyal carries a sense of steadiness, a kind of grounded energy that makes you feel secure in her presence. She does not need to constantly chase newness to feel alive, because she has already chosen where she belongs. But when you encounter a woman who is always restless, who cannot sit still in her own life, who is constantly seeking the next thrill, the next experience, the next validation, you are looking at someone who struggles to be loyal. Loyalty requires roots, and restlessness refuses to be planted. This restlessness often begins as subtle dissatisfaction. She may have a good partner, stability, comfort, even love, but she feels a pull toward something more. It is not that what she has is bad. It is that her spirit is not satisfied with stillness. She confuses peace with boredom and commitment with limitation. When someone carries that energy, they are not able to fully invest in what they already have, because in their mind, something better is always waiting just beyond the horizon. This is why restlessness is so dangerous in relationships, because it creates a constant state of comparison, and comparison always erodes loyalty. You will notice it in the way she speaks. She is often talking about what she doesn't have, what is missing, what feels lacking. Instead of cherishing what is in front of her, her attention is on what could be. If you take her on a trip, she is already planning the next one. If you surprise her with effort, she quickly adjusts to it and begins asking for more. If you give her commitment, she starts wondering if she settled too soon. This is not because she is ungrateful in the surface sense, but because she has trained her mind to believe that happiness is somewhere else, always out there, never here. That mindset makes loyalty almost impossible, because no matter how much she has, she will always be tempted by the possibility of more. Restlessness also reveals itself in behavior. A woman who struggles with loyalty often moves quickly from one interest to another. She might change jobs frequently, switch friend groups often, or reinvent her image every few months. These patterns of instability are not random. They show you that she struggles to anchor herself. And if she cannot anchor herself in her own life, how can she anchor herself in a relationship? Loyalty is a practice of staying through the highs and the lows, through the excitement and the monotony, but a restless spirit avoids monotony at all costs. When things become steady, when the excitement fades, she begins to search for stimulation elsewhere. It is important to understand that this restlessness is not always intentional betrayal. Sometimes it is rooted in unresolved emptiness, in an inability to feel fulfilled no matter what she has. But the effect on loyalty is the same. A woman who is restless may not consciously want to be disloyal, yet her energy constantly draws her toward distraction, temptation, and novelty. And because loyalty demands focus, presence, and stability, she ends up betraying the relationship by never being fully present in it. Her body might be there, but her mind and heart are already somewhere else. This energy is especially visible when life slows down. In the quiet moments, when there is no excitement, no drama, no new adventure, watch how she responds. A loyal woman is at peace with stillness. She knows that love is not about constant fireworks, but about steady connection. A restless woman, on the other hand, begins to itch for something different. She picks fights, stirs unnecessary drama, or distracts herself with outside attention just to avoid the feeling of stillness. This restlessness becomes the breeding ground for disloyalty, because instead of nurturing the bond she already has, she reaches outward to ease the discomfort she feels inside. Another aspect of restlessness is impatience. Loyalty is not instant. It is proven over time through seasons of growth, struggle, and repetition. A woman who is restless lacks the patience to endure those seasons. She wants the thrill without the process, the rewards without the sacrifice. So when challenges come in the relationship, instead of working through them, she feels drawn to escape them. Restlessness whispers that the grass is greener somewhere else, and if she listens to that voice often enough, she eventually acts on it. You can also see restlessness in her inability to be content with herself. A woman who is always chasing external changes, new looks, new experiences, new attention, is really expressing an internal void. She believes that fulfillment is external, so she keeps moving, keeps searching, keeps chasing. But because the void is internal, nothing outside of her can fill it. And until she confronts that truth, her restlessness will remain and her loyalty will always be fragile. The danger is that restlessness often disguises itself as ambition or passion. She may tell you she just wants to experience life or that she refuses to settle for less. On the surface, this can sound admirable. But if you look deeper, you will see that it is not about growth or vision. It is about never being satisfied. And a woman who cannot be satisfied will always be tempted to step outside the lines of loyalty because she is wired to seek stimulation instead of stability. This is why restlessness is not just a personality quirk, it is a powerful sign of whether she can ever truly be loyal. When her energy is grounded, when she has found contentment within herself, loyalty flows naturally because she does not need to chase every spark outside of the relationship. But when her energy is restless, loyalty becomes a burden, a chain she eventually wants to escape. And until she learns to be at peace with stillness, no partner, no commitment, and no amount of love will ever be enough to hold her in place. When you are building a relationship that you hope will last, one of the most important things you can look for is whether she has a vision that includes you. Loyalty is not just about being faithful in the present moment. It is about being committed to a shared future. If she cannot picture life with you, if she avoids conversations about where things are headed, if she dismisses or resists the idea of planning together, then her loyalty is shallow. It exists only in the now, and it will disappear the moment something feels more exciting or more convenient. A woman who truly intends to be loyal will naturally begin weaving you into her dreams, her goals, her plans, and her vision of tomorrow. When she doesn't, it is a sign that she is not anchored. She is passing time, enjoying the present, but avoiding the deeper commitment that loyalty demands. You will notice this in the way she reacts when the subject of the future arises. Bring up something as simple as taking a trip 6 months from now, and if she hesitates, avoids, or changes the subject, it tells you that her heart is not fully invested. When conversations about marriage, family, building together, or long-term goals make her uncomfortable, you are looking at a woman who does not see you as part of her vision. It doesn't matter how much affection she shows in the moment, because loyalty without vision is temporary. People stay committed to what they believe in, to what they can clearly see, and if she has no picture of us, her loyalty has an expiration date. The absence of vision also reveals her intentions. Some women enter relationships because they enjoy companionship, attention, or security, but not because they truly want to build something lasting. They live in the moment, and while that can feel exciting, it is not sustainable. Over time, the lack of direction creates a void. Without a shared goal, the relationship becomes stagnant, and stagnation leads to disconnection. She may not betray you in a dramatic way, but her lack of investment in the future will show up in small ways: indifference, inconsistency, and eventually distance. Loyalty demands a foundation. When a woman imagines her future, she begins to make choices that support it. If she sees you in her vision, her decisions begin to reflect that. She is more mindful of her actions. She values the bond. She invests in the growth of the relationship. But if her future picture does not include you, then her choices will reveal it. She will prioritize herself, keep her options open, and avoid deep sacrifices. She may give you affection today, but tomorrow she will choose in a way that protects only her own path. This is not disloyalty in the obvious sense, but it is the kind of quiet disloyalty that erodes trust over time because her heart is not tied to anything beyond the present. You can also recognize the absence of vision by looking at how she defines we versus me. A loyal woman shifts her language. She begins to say we when she talks about the future because she already includes you in her plans. An unanchored woman continues to speak only in terms of me and I, even after the relationship has matured. Her dreams are hers alone, her goals are hers alone, and her priorities rarely bend to create space for a shared life. That doesn't mean she should abandon her individuality, but loyalty requires integration. Her life must make room for you. If she refuses to allow that, then her loyalty will never grow beyond convenience. There is also a subtle form of avoidance that reveals the truth. She might claim she is not ready to talk about the future, or that she wants to live in the moment, or that things will figure themselves out. On the surface, this sounds casual, but beneath it, what it often means is that she is deliberately keeping the door open. She does not want to tie herself down because she is not sure she wants to stay. Her avoidance of vision is a way to protect her freedom. And while freedom is valuable, a relationship cannot thrive if one person is holding the exit door open. That lack of commitment creates instability because you will always feel uncertain about where you stand. This is why vision is inseparable from loyalty. A loyal woman does not fear building the future with you. She looks forward to it. She is not afraid of making plans together because her heart is already set. She wants to align her steps with yours because she knows that true love is not about short-term pleasure, but about long-term partnership. If she avoids that alignment, if she resists the idea of weaving her life with yours, then she is showing you that her loyalty is conditional. It lasts only as long as things are easy, convenient, and enjoyable, but it will falter when the time comes to truly build. The absence of vision also creates a dangerous vulnerability. When a woman is not anchored to a shared future, she is far more likely to be swayed by distractions, temptations, and opportunities outside the relationship. Because she has not committed her future to you, she does not feel she has much to lose. This makes disloyalty easier because her attachment is shallow. By contrast, when a woman has already envisioned her life with you, she is far less likely to entertain those distractions because they threaten something she has already committed to protecting. Her loyalty is reinforced by her vision, and her vision strengthens her loyalty. The truth is simple without a vision of us. There can be no true loyalty. When she sees the relationship as temporary, as a moment to enjoy rather than a life to build, then her loyalty is fragile. It may hold for a season, but it will break when tested. Only when she has a clear picture of the future with you can her loyalty take root, because then she has something to protect, something to invest in, something worth sacrificing for. Self-respect is the mirror through which loyalty reflects itself. The way a woman treats herself, her body, her values, her boundaries, and her time reveals everything about what she is capable of offering in a relationship. A person who does not respect their own being cannot possibly hold steady respect for another, because loyalty begins with the discipline of honoring oneself. When a woman has no standards for her own life, when she lives carelessly with no boundaries or regard for her own worth, then her loyalty will always be fragile. You cannot expect her to treat you with a depth of commitment she has not yet learned to give herself. Look at the choices she makes when it comes to her body. A woman who respects herself does not give herself away cheaply. She does not feel the need to seek validation by offering her physical presence to anyone who asks for it. She treats intimacy as something sacred, something meaningful, because she understands her value. When she has that foundation of self-respect, loyalty flows naturally. She guards her bond with the same care she guards herself. But when self-respect is lacking, she is more likely to view intimacy as a tool for attention or temporary satisfaction. She gives away what is meant to be cherished, and in doing so, she shows that loyalty has no deep roots in her life. The same is true with her time. A self-respecting woman understands that her time is her life, and she invests it wisely. She does not waste countless hours in destructive habits, toxic relationships, or superficial pursuits. She prioritizes growth, health, and genuine connections. That kind of focus builds a natural loyalty, because when she values her own time, she also values yours. But if you see a woman who constantly wastes her time in meaningless distractions, who allows others to use her, who cannot hold herself to commitments, then you must understand that her relationship with loyalty will mirror that same lack of discipline. If she cannot remain true to herself, how can she remain true to you? Boundaries are another key measure of self-respect. A loyal woman sets clear boundaries not only with strangers, but also with friends, coworkers, and anyone who might threaten her relationship. She knows how to say no, because her self-respect does not allow her to entertain behavior that disrespects her or her partner. But a woman without boundaries will always be vulnerable. She may not intend to betray, but her inability to set limits opens the door for disloyalty. She allows others to cross lines, she entertains conversations she should shut down, and she justifies behavior that chips away at trust. In truth, her lack of boundaries is not about you. It is about her lack of respect for herself, and that internal weakness inevitably shows up in the relationship. Self-respect also shows in the values she holds. A woman who is loyal to herself is guided by principles. She has standards for how she lives, and she refuses to compromise them for temporary pleasure or outside approval. She makes decisions not just for the moment, but with the awareness of how they align with who she is. That level of inner discipline creates a foundation for loyalty, because she is already practiced in staying true to something greater than her immediate desires. On the other hand, a woman who constantly shifts her values depending on convenience, peer pressure, or temptation is showing you that she cannot hold steady. If she is not anchored in her own convictions, she will not stay anchored in a relationship. Even her inner dialogue matters. A woman with self-respect speaks to herself with care. She does not tear herself down or depend solely on others to validate her. She builds her own sense of worth from within. That kind of strength protects loyalty because she does not need to seek constant affirmation from outside sources. A woman who lacks self-respect, however, is often hungry for validation, always needing others to tell her she is valuable. And when someone is hungry enough, they will accept crumbs. This is where disloyalty grows, not because she consciously seeks betrayal, but because she seeks worth in the wrong places. It is also important to observe how she manages her emotions. Self-respect gives her the ability to control her reactions, to remain composed, to handle challenges with dignity. Without it, she becomes reckless in moments of stress. She lashes out, she says things she doesn't mean, she looks for comfort in places that damage trust. Emotional discipline is part of self-respect, and it directly impacts loyalty. Because loyalty is not only about staying faithful when things are easy, it is about holding steady when things are difficult. A woman who respects herself has developed the strength to stay grounded in storms, while one who does not respect herself will often escape responsibility by running elsewhere. Think also about how she handles opportunities. A woman with self-respect evaluates them carefully. She does not jump into every invitation, every temptation, every offer of attention. She filters her choices because she knows her worth. This self-filtering is what makes her reliable. By contrast, a woman who lacks self-respect will chase anything that excites her in the moment, often without thinking about the consequences. Her inability to filter is not about lack of options, it is about lack of inner discipline. And a person without discipline is easily swayed, which makes loyalty almost impossible to sustain. At the core of it all, self-respect is the soil where loyalty grows. If the soil is weak, the roots cannot hold. A woman who lives with dignity, who honors her own value, who keeps herself accountable, naturally creates a foundation for loyalty. Because the way she treats herself is the blueprint for how she will treat the bond you share. If she disrespects herself, neglects her own worth, and refuses to hold standards for her own life, then, no matter how much she says she is loyal, her actions will tell you otherwise. The truest test of loyalty is never found in the moments when she is right in front of you, smiling, holding your hand, or speaking words of commitment. Those are easy moments because there is no challenge in being loyal when you are present to see it. The real test comes in the shadows, when you are not there, when no one is watching, when she has the freedom to make choices without your knowledge. It is in those unseen moments that her character reveals itself. A woman who is truly loyal will behave the same way in private as she does in public. Her actions align with her words even when there is no one around to hold her accountable. But when secrecy, double standards, or hidden behavior start to creep in, those are the signs that loyalty is not as solid as it appears. You can often sense the difference. A loyal woman carries transparency with ease. She doesn't become defensive when you ask a question. She doesn't hide her phone. She doesn't create unnecessary mystery about her whereabouts. Her openness is not because you demand it, but because she has nothing to conceal. She knows that loyalty shines brightest in honesty, and her consistency in the shadows matches her behavior in the light. On the other hand, when a woman becomes guarded, when she protects her privacy in unusual ways, when her explanations don't match her actions, it is not simply a matter of independence. It is often a window into secrecy. That secrecy is where disloyalty is born. Character is not proven by words, but by integrity in hidden spaces. If she flirts with strangers online under the excuse of just having fun, if she deletes messages so you won't see them, if she creates compartments in her life where you are not allowed to enter, these are not random acts. They are intentional choices to live a double life. And the danger is that a double life always fractures loyalty. No matter how convincing her words may be, actions in the shadows reveal her truest intentions. The person she is when no one is watching is the person you are truly with, not the one she performs for when you are around. There is also the issue of secrecy becoming a habit. At first, it may start with something small, hiding a conversation, avoiding telling the full truth, pretending to be somewhere she's not. But secrecy builds upon itself. Once she gets comfortable with hiding small things, it becomes easier to hide larger ones. The line of integrity moves further each time until dishonesty becomes her normal. And when dishonesty becomes her normal, loyalty is no longer possible because she has already trained herself to choose convenience over truth. Another revealing pattern is how she speaks about you when you are not there. Loyalty is not just about actions, but about words. If she respects you in front of you but disrespects you behind your back, if she entertains conversations that demean the relationship, if she allows others to treat her as though she is unattached, then she is already betraying the bond in spirit. A loyal woman protects your name and your presence, even when you are absent. She does not need you to be in the room to maintain her respect, because her loyalty is anchored in her values, not in fear of being caught. Consider also the difference between mistakes and patterns. Everyone can make a poor choice in a weak moment, but a woman of strong character corrects herself quickly. She admits her fault, she learns, she strengthens her boundaries. A disloyal woman, however, hides her mistakes and repeats them because secrecy shields her from accountability. She might become skilled at covering her tracks, but the repetition of hidden behavior always speaks louder than the excuses she gives. If you observe secrecy as a recurring theme, it is not an accident. It is her nature showing itself. Technology has made this test of loyalty even more visible. Phones, social media, and constant connectivity create countless opportunities for secrecy. The way she handles those opportunities tells you everything. If she is transparent with her digital life, if she has nothing to fear from your awareness, if she doesn't feel the need to constantly guard her devices, it shows her character is aligned with loyalty. But if her phone is always face down, if she becomes defensive when you come near, if she lives in private messages that you are never meant to see, then she is telling you without words that her loyalty cannot be trusted in the shadows. True loyalty is an internal compass. It is not about what she can get away with, but about who she chooses to be. A woman of strong character doesn't avoid betrayal because she fears being caught. She avoids it because it violates her own principles. That is why her behavior remains consistent whether you are there or not. A woman without that internal compass, however, will always struggle. When she is unsupervised, her choices shift. When she thinks no one will know, she acts differently. That gap between her public self and her private self is where disloyalty lies. At its core, this comes down to integrity. Loyalty cannot exist without integrity, and integrity is proven in the shadows. It is revealed in the choices made when temptation whispers, when no one will ever know, when the easier path is to hide. If secrecy is part of her lifestyle, if she creates a pattern of hidden actions, if her character is different in the dark than it is in the light, then you have already seen the truth of her loyalty. Because it is in those unseen spaces, when she believes no one is watching, that the real woman appears, and her character in the shadows is the most reliable measure of whether she will ever truly be loyal.